welcome back to Vasant Vihar Litfest 2021. We are ready with our next session, which is eagerly, which we all are eagerly looking forward to. It's Sunder Nursery Renovation, creating Delhi's new refuge. Located in the heart of Delhi, Sunder Nursery takes you to another world, away from the hustle bustle of the city in the lap of nature. Amazingly restoration work, Amazing restoration work has turned this place into a perfect tourist spot, a must place visit for everyone. As the joke goes, one half of the city was in Goa, the other half was in Sunder Nursery. And we are very delighted to welcome Ratish Nanda, who heads the multidisciplinary Aga Khan Trust for Culture as the CEO and is presently involved in two major urban conservation projects in India, the Nizamuddin Urban Renewal Initiative, Delhi, and the Qutub Shahi Heritage Park Conservation in Hyderabad. Ratish has served as an ICOMOS expert in missions in Iran, Turkey, and Nepal, and he has lectured in over 20 countries. His major publications include Delhi, The Built Heritage, A Listing, and Rethinking Conservation, Humayun's Tomb. Welcome to the discussion, Mr. Nanda.
Pleasure.
In conversation with him is Raj Sharma. I don't think Raj needs any introduction, but I am going to introduce him nevertheless. Is that okay, Raj?
You're the boss.
And it's on camera now.
Yeah. And recorded.
So Raj Sharma is an international business consultant. He has a distinguished career of over 40 years in the FMCG industry, having worked in companies like Nestle and Unilever. He advises small and medium companies in developing their business, both in domestic and overseas markets. And he's involved in community development and social work, and he's a member of the Vasant Vihar Club and Society. Raj,
Thank you,
over
Sanjana.
to you.
You mentioned that Sunder Nursery is a place where people get away from the hustle bustle of a big city. But at the same time, you also mentioned that half of Delhi is in Sunder Nursery.
That's right.
I've had occasion over the last 3 years to visit Sunder Nursery on a few occasions, and including this year. And it's true, actually, the day before we visited, I spoke to Ratish, and he said there were something like over 9,000 people there. So that's a reflection of the popularity of the venue. So when we went on a weekday, we expected lesser crowd. And definitely there was much lesser crowd than 9,000 people. There were only about 8,000 people there. But Ratish, all credit to you and your team. I think you have really made Sunder Nursery and its surrounding areas into a fascinating place where people can. We went there for what you describe as a place where one can go for a winter picnic. So definitely it was a beautiful ambience, and we really loved spending the time there and taking a bit of a walk by the lakeside and all those beautiful promenades. Very, very nice. This is something, the Sunder Nursery, I understand, came about in the beginning of the 20th century. And if I see the photographs of, the place before the renovation, it was in a decrepit situation. And how you have transformed it is absolutely amazing. And I think the whole architecture and the kind of the fountains and waterways that you have provided there, very, very interesting landscape out there. Of course, helped by the fact that there are some six historical monuments within that area. Somehow we always end up sitting near that what is called, I think, Sunder Mahal. That has a few benches around. So we as the kind of people who are probably not so keen to sit on the ground, we end up sitting where the benches are. But tell us about the origin, and I understand you would probably be sharing a presentation. Take us through the whole journey of how it came about. Later on, we will talk about some of the other projects. As Sanjana just said, you also have a project going on in Hyderabad. But let's first talk about Delhi's new recreational area, or as you said, creating Delhi's refuge. So,
thank you. Thank you very much, sir. It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for those generous introductions. It is true that, it is a refuge. It's also, but even though it is, 9,000 people, but it's also 90 acres. So even when there are 9,000 people, there is always a quiet corner for the book lovers amongst the Vasant Vihar residents to come and read in a tranquil corner. There is always going to be that. That's the way it is designed. But it'll be my pleasure to show you the work that we at the Aga Khan Trust for Culture have done here over the last decade. Can I request that the presentation now be visible? I can continue. So, Sunder Nursery's got a fascinating history, but before I get into it, I just want to tell you a little bit about why we at the Aga Khan Trust for Culture really got engaged with this site. So we work, we are part of the Aga Khan Development Network, and we have been working in Sunder Nursery in India for a pretty long time, but we also work in 30 countries. And what the Aga Khan Development Network is really about is about improving the quality of life for people across the world. At the Trust for Culture, we do it through culture. So for the last 40 odd years, His Highness the Aga Khan's been talking about heritage, whether it's monuments, museums, music, food, to be a leverage for social economic development, just the way health and education is today understood. So one of our first flagship projects was this large park in Cairo that we built. And, today, surprisingly, this park attracts more visitors than the pyramids themselves. So it's quite incredible that that for a city known for the pyramids, this is what is really attracting the crowds.
This looks like an oasis in desert.
It actually is. So the story goes that about 40 years ago, the Aga Khan was attending a conference. He was told that there's not enough parks in Kabul, in Cairo, as you can see around you. And he said, give me land and I'll build you a park. And he was offered this garbage dump. So once we cleared 700 years of garbage, we found 1.2 kilometers city wall on the edge of this park. So that wall is now being restored. And as I said, it gets more visitors than the pyramids. Similarly, I was privileged to spend 7 years in Kabul and restore the Baghe Babur, which is again an oasis. And the Baghe Babur now gets about 35,000 visitors a week. So it's really become the refuge of Kabul. People from all communities, all social economic backgrounds come and spend there. And mostly during the week, it's mostly women. And this is a park which we managed for till last year in 6,000 acres, just outside Paris. And this was restored over many years by us. We've also done a park in Edmonton. This is back to Cairo, and then Sunder Nursery. So that really line on the, on your screen tells us why we do it. These are leisure spaces and very, very important. So we've been doing these parks across many countries over the last sort of decade. In fact, It's one of the more important things we're now doing at the Aga Khan Trust for Culture. Coming to Nizamuddin, now this is an incredible oasis at the edge of New Delhi. So Hazrat Nizamuddin Auliya was a Sufi saint who was buried here in the 14th century, and quite close to his burial, this place for 500 years became the place to be buried in, because you considered auspicious to be buried near a saint's grave. So there are over 100 monuments, most of which are garden tombs. So this is what the area looked like till the turn of the last century, with lots of gardens and enclosure walls. And it was only in the 20th century that portions of this land started being parceled off. So Sunder Nursery was created to plant trees for the British city of New Delhi.
So for viewers, should I reconfirm that the river Yamuna was almost touching this?
Yes, so the Humayun's tomb was built on the river banks. It was built on the river banks. In fact, Neela Gumbad, which predates Humayun's tomb and is now at the Nizamuddin railway station, was built on a river island. And it's only in the 19th century, late 19th century, that the river started receding. And then the railway lines were put in, and that sort of marked the end of the river being along this path. So the river was right at the edge of Nizamuddin East or Humayun's tomb. Till the 19th century. So these are some archival pictures of what Humayun's tomb went through over a century. But we first got engaged with this site at the Humayun's Tomb Gardens, which was a gift of His Highness the Aga Khan on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of India's independence. So this is what we had. We removed 3,000 truckloads of earth, reset the etching stones, created a scheme, and restored the Charbagh. And this led to an immediate increase of about 1,000% in visitor numbers. And so you are advising companies, you should really advise them to invest in heritage, because nothing else has this rate of return. I mean, what we invested in the garden restoration was really recovered by the Archaeological Survey in less than 1 year of excess ticket sales. Now, which business has that rate of return? Unfortunately, conservation or culture in India is still seen as a preserve of the government, and we remain, 20 years after we started, remain the only private agency working on national monuments. But hopefully liberalization will touch culture as well, and more companies will be able to invest not only as grants but also as an investment into recovering heritage assets of this country.
I must tell you, Ratish, that a few years ago I had some visitors from Europe, and the place I chose to take them to was Humayun's tomb.
Thank you. Well, unfortunately, you don't have much of a choice in Delhi, because our monuments are kept, they don't get the attention they deserve. And that's what, so what we're trying to do here is really create model projects that can serve as inspiration and as an example for other people. So this is before and after pictures of really Humayun's tomb, before we started and after we finished. So this, this is my favorite picture, because in one picture it tells 1,000 stories. I don't have a time to do all of those 1,000 stories today, but again, before and after of the garden restoration.
Wow.
Of course, there has to be a technical glitch. Now this, after finishing the garden restoration, we left. We stopped our work in India. I was in Kabul. And when we were invited back to work, to look at any site and and we were offered many sites across the country. We chose to come back to this area because we consider our work incomplete. We had only done the garden restoration of Humayun's tomb. We'd not worked on Humayun's tomb itself. We'd not done any work with the community living next to Humayun's tomb, and almost all our work worldwide is done to improve quality of life. So what we're really looking for is a great site, a needy community, and possibility of doing a park. And this space gave us that. So since 2007, when we signed this MOU, we've been working across 300 acres in the heart of Delhi. It might come as a surprise to all of you, but Vasant Vihar is not the heart of Delhi. This is, sorry, no offense meant there. So there are about 100 monuments in this area. And what we did, the trick we did was we signed a single piece of paper, the MOU, with three very different government agencies with three very different mandates. So the ASI for the 100-odd monuments that stand in this area, the municipal corporation for all the facilities that the community needed, and the Central Public Works Department, which own Sunder Nursery. That in 2016 led, after 10 years of conservation effort, to 12 more monuments being added on the UNESCO World Heritage List. So that World Heritage Site expanded from 26 acres to 200 plus acres. Now, finally, coming to Sunder Nursery, you'll see the Google image, the satellite image from 2007. You'll see most of it is farmland, most of it is the roads crisscrossing across Sunder Nursery. And it was surprisingly not open to the public, which is why it's been sort of Delhi's best kept secret while we've been working here over the last decade or more. It was so we had Professor Muhammad Shahir, who unfortunately is passed away, but he was the landscape architect. And what we agreed from the onset is not a single tree should be cut. There was forest, nursery, and heritage. And over the years, that forest, nursery, and heritage has been sort of developed in a manner that there are heritage access, but there are dense forest areas, and there are recreational facilities and vegetation and pathways. This was a very sensitive landscape master planning done by Professor Shahir, which the benefit of which that is him and his philosophy of what the landscape plan really looked like. And that is what we're enjoying the outcome of this sheer genius work. So these are some before and after pictures. So Sunder Nursery over the last since independence continued to serve a nursery, continued to create plants for the capital complex, but it was not in a great state. So that is
so just go back to the So there were some sort of water bodies which were there.
These are not historic. These are water bodies that were really from the late 20th century. But water bodies is very difficult to maintain. Easy to build, but very difficult to maintain. So this is a smaller water body that was surrounded by a road. Mm-hmm. Yes. So there have been lots of layers of intervention, sir, at Sunder Nursery. Over the years, roads, buildings. There were several more buildings, and you'll see some of them. So this is just simply a before and after. So this is the heart of Sunder Nursery. This is the heritage heart of Sunder Nursery, and this is not meant to restore an earlier garden that was there. It is meant to create a new garden with sort of principles of Mughal gardening principles that can also be seen at Rashtrapati Bhavan.
And that structure is called Burj or something.
It's called Sunder Burj. Again, Burj. It is a mausoleum. Mm-hmm. It is a mausoleum. We don't know who is buried here, but it's a very, very fine building when you look at the interiors of it. So its significance really lies in its interior. But when we started, it was in a traffic island. There was a road thoroughfare going through this, which we had. All the roads have now been moved. There is only one road at Sunder Nursery, which is the periphery. But all the internal roads have now been removed. So this is one of the World Heritage Monuments, and you can see how close it stands to Humayun's tomb. Mm-hmm. So this is the ceiling of Sunder Burj. It's unique, it's incredible, and the first word everybody says when you come in is wow. But this needed a lot of restoration. Almost 70% of it was gone, and a lot of the other elements were gone. So this had to be all carefully put back, which we did.
Is it something which is still work in progress, or you have completed this?
Well, this is done. Unfortunately, what had happened is that the walls had absorbed a lot of water, and the walls are very thick. It's almost 10 feet thick walls. Mm-hmm. And for water to dry out, every foot takes about 1 year. So it'll take 10 years for this building to really dry out. So we are now in the process of doing a second repair to the building. Mm-hmm. Again, more road and what happened afterwards. But these are some views of what you see right now. So this is the heart. Mostly it is very crowded on Saturdays, Sundays, but it still remains for 5 days of the week. It remains like this, almost, very tranquil, very alone, and very quiet. This is a bird's eye view of this heart of the garden, which you also saw in the first slide. So it's very Persian garden principles, with flowing water being the central theme, along which fruit and flowering orchards are planted. And everything is being done by hand. So, one of the things that we've been able to do is, in the 10 years of conservation work in this site, we've created 15 lakh, almost 15, 14 lakh, some thousand number of man days of work by master craftsmen. तो जो हम हिंदुस्तान में दिहाड़ी बोलते हैं, 15 लाख दिहाड़ी काम हुआ है. So almost 75-80% of what conservation we spend on goes into craftsman wages. And I make this point because in India we're still at that stage where we need to justify the expense that conservation incurs, because we think it's waste and all of that. But conservation does fulfill a lot of government objectives, so to speak.
To my mind, Ratish, the craftsmanship that is going behind all this, a lot of us get fascinated by seeing some of the old monuments, and we say, oh, what fantastic craftsmanship there was X number of years ago. I think what you are doing with the Sunder Nursery, 100 years later or less, more, people will say that, see, look at the kind of work that has gone behind recreating or rebuilding Sunder Nursery. So yeah, you are creating something for history.
So actually, we're very fortunate at this time. The craftsman skills, the traditions still survive to an extent. Whether they will survive for the next generation, we don't know, because the dignity of labor associated with these crafts has been lost. And now these young people have aspirations to become computer engineers and God knows what all. But very few of them are taking on crafts of their parents. But a lot of India is very lucky at this moment that a lot of the craft skills still survive.
So I think you're giving them that place in history. So maybe the art will resurrect itself.
Yeah. So, and it's not very expensive to do. So unfortunately, in modern construction, a lot of these craft skills are not being incorporated. But if they do become incorporated in modern Vasant Vihar bungalows, then I think they will definitely be, this craft will survive. So that's a suggestion.
I like the way you keep coming back to Vasant Vihar. And I know your connection with Vasant Vihar, but we'll not talk about it.
Very deep connections.
Very deep.
Yeah. So there is a general thing about not planting fruit in the public gardens. But we've done a lot of it. So we've got oranges, lemons, jamun, mulberry, guava, chiku. We've got peaches and so on, and the birds love it. And it's amazing that people actually are not plucking the fruit, and the birds are having a great time in this incredible setting.
So I don't know if you're going to talk about it later, Ratish, but I'm interrupting.
Sure.
I read that Sunder Nursery is the largest arboretum.
Arboretum,
a word which I had not even read earlier, but arboretum.
Museum of trees, yeah.
Museum of trees, yeah. But it's also a place where there is a very wide variety of bird species and butterfly species. So yeah, you're right. I mean, I think you're creating areas and of course these fruit trees, as you said, which are attracting the birds, and probably the flowers which are attracting the butterflies. So you're giving a little of everything to this nature park. Fantastic.
Yeah. So what we've been able to do is when we started, Sunder Nursery was really 67 acres. Today it's 90 acres because we were able to remove almost 25 acres of encroachment. So a lot of the monuments had got encroached in this manner. There were over 100 buildings that we were able to somehow demolish in one night and recreate this incredible gardens, which is all these monuments were actually gone, mostly gone, and today they're back being World Heritage monuments. And because of the space allowed, we've been able to create a haven for even honeybees. Honeybees are very critical to our ecosystem, and there is not much awareness, but we've been working not only on the monuments themselves, but planting them appropriately for in a manner that not only enhances the heritage character, but also ecological. Now we've implemented one of the largest.
Your previous one, why is it called Lakadwala Burj?
So you see, what happens is that in Islamic practice, Orthodox Islam really frowns upon building of a tomb. So not even covering your grave with a stone, but these people did become royals. They did make stones, but one of the compromises was they never left their name. So very few buildings have any inscriptions. And in the 20th century, when the British were really doing an inventory of historic buildings, the local villagers, gave a lot of names. So Lakadwala, Sundarwala, Bara Lao, Dadi, Poti, all these names. We have no idea why this is Lakadwala.
Okay.
So we found about half a dozen wells from the Mughal period, which were just completely filled up. We desilted them. So every drop of rain that collects at Sunder Nursery is today either stored in the lake or goes down into the aquifer. And the parking lot at Sunder Nursery has a whole underground swimming pool which collects rainwater. So a lot of these wells were just discovered and refilled, which is possible. But coming to the ecological aspects of it, we've created not with the purpose of doing climate change or addressing climate change, but to inform people of what Delhi's ecology used to be. So we've actually created an artificial ridge. We've created an artificial river body. We are going to create some marshy lands and so on, and plant these with tree species belonging to these geological spreads. So a lot of Sunder Nursery had become a Malba dumping ground through the late 20th century. These are before and after pictures of the same area. And we
amazing. But tell me, you're talking about ecology, and I saw the water, those small waterfalls in the lake. Do you also have like an effluent treatment plant there? We
do. So a lot of the horticulture work is irrigated with treated sewage water. So we treat, the water comes in, we treat it, and then we put it back into the system.
Okay, good.
And so these are
water actually is very good for the foliage. Yeah.
Yes. So, but we take the chemicals out. So these are portions, tranquil portions that are still remaining to be discovered by the 9,000 people who land up on Sundays. So there is a lot of that, but there is also a continuous, bird habitat zone, mainly for peacocks, mainly for ground nesting birds, which are inaccessible to humans and dogs, both threats to the wildlife. And we have 280 tree species here now. So we are also very fortunate that when the British were trying to plant New Delhi, they got in tree species from South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand. So we have about 20 trees, which the lone species in India exists at Sunder Nursery. So that really adds to it, and we now have almost 100 bird species that are either resident here or have been recorded here.
Okay, so I stand corrected. My information of 80 is now outdated. It's 100, is it?
Actually, what did happen is over the last couple of years with the water coming in, we've got a lot of water birds. So we had little grebe nesting here. We've got ultramarine flycatchers, which have never been recorded here, never been recorded in Delhi, seen at Sunder Nursery.
So are some of these migratory birds? Or?
A lot of these are migratory birds. They come in a season. And because the zoo is next door, we get pelicans and painted storks and so on. Again, we're trying to create a habitat for butterflies. We've not done a very good job of recording them, but we put it to the public, and members of the public have over here recorded about 36 species of butterflies.
Okay.
We also hope that Sunder Nursery will become a space school program. This was a literature, this was an oral history, oral storytelling festival, and there are about 1,500 kids, of course, pre-social distancing, pre-COVID.
I was curious to know why you made that amphitheater out there. So what exactly is the objective of that?
So the amphitheater is, you see, you've got events happening in Nehru Park. So what we wanted to do is, culture is very much part of the Nizamuddin. All of you probably listen to Qawwali. Qawwali was really born in Nizamuddin. It was created in Nizamuddin with Amir Khusro singing praise of the Lord, of the saint. And so culture is very important part of parks worldwide. Even in India, we have a lot of, so we created a permanent space And this also serves as a rainwater harvesting tank. So it actually collects and then goes into the groundwater aquifer. But yeah, we do hope to rent this out. We did about 30 events pre-COVID last winter with people renting out the amphitheater. And I think once the restrictions are lifted, more and more people would want events outdoors. So it's both, seeing Sunder Nursery not only for heritage, but also for living culture. So there have been some very interesting events over here.
I read somewhere that you are trying to bring in those hundreds of thousands of school children that go to Humayun's tomb to come and enjoy the culture.
Yeah, so what we're now doing is tagging every tree. We are putting in tree signage. We're trying to inform kids while they enjoy themselves. So it's not, and we're also creating a special children's zone. So we've got a children's park coming up. We've got a children's trail. We're also allowing at a feast children's birthday parties and so on. So, so the idea is to attract a lot more and sensitize them about, heritage, ecology, culture, and even civic sense, because that's very important. So we're doing a lot of workshops, nest building in sparrow. These are very popular, beekeeping. So we have an active bee program at Sunder Nursery done by this Mr. Rakesh Gupta of Golden Eye Foundation. So we're partnering with like-minded agencies to use the park in a manner that is ecologically sensitive. And actually, when we introduced bees, I had some very prominent people saying, "Oh my God, the bees in Sunder Nursery! I would be scared to come here." But the bee is absolutely critical. 90% of our food grains comes because bees pollinate them. And then trees, we've now started doing a lot of tree walks. We don't do it ourselves, but we encourage other people to do it and advertise them. But there is a tree signage, so you could actually spend your whole day at Sunder Nursery learning about the 200 plus trees. We now have an urban farm, which is being done by Bijom, where you've got lost vegetables. You go to your sabzi wala, you have 10 vegetables, but over here in India, we've had hundreds of them. So we're introducing vegetables so people can come and learn about rare vegetables which have been lost and hopefully revive them. We have a Saturday, Sunday bazaar of organic vegetables. So that is very popular.
Yes, some of my friends actually go on Sunday morning only to pick up these organic vegetables.
Absolutely. Yeah. And people come from far off places. People come from Faridabad and God knows, just to come and pick up the right thing to eat.
Well, the friends I'm talking about they live in Nizamuddin. You probably know them also, but yeah.
So so that's one of the events at the amphitheater. We're also hoping art. So they were allowing artists to do art installations at Sunder Nursery, and we are also allowing people to dedicate benches in memory of their loved ones. So we're trying to engage with the community to quite an extent, and this is the result of 10 years of work, which has included recovering about 25 acres of encroached space. We do remain conscious of the fact that parking will always be a problem. So we are looking at tying up with the metro and so on to have people get dropped off. But simultaneously, we also have a major social economic program in the adjoining Nizamuddin Basti. And eventually, this is the hope. This is the hope that, if Sunder Nursery, Humayun's Tomb, Purana Killa, Zoo, the Millennium Park is all made accessible to the public, we will have a central urban park which will be bigger than New York Central Park. And that's quite something. All of this place from Purana Killa southwards to Humayun's Tomb is green. It's green. And just before I go, I want to just quickly mention this other project that we're doing in the hope that you will invite me next year to talk about that. This is the Qutub Shahi tombs at Hyderabad, where we're creating a 100-acre park at Golconda and restoring about 100 of these monuments. And the final slide, it takes an interdisciplinary team to do the work we do. And so at the Aga Khan Trust for Culture, we have at least 30 different disciplines within the team that I'm privileged to lead here.
Please do tell the viewers that this picture was taken pre-COVID.
Yes, it was, like everything else.
Okay.
There are also some other facilities that we hope to build. We are still fundraising for that. You can go to London and look at Kerala's northeast, vegetation. You can't do that in Delhi. So we hope to introduce a garden house that can grow tropical flora and so on once COVID goes, once there is money, and etc. etc.
Just
Thank
one
you very much.
curiosity, Ratish. I also read that you also got a Nizamuddin interpretation center that you are planning. What's the?
So worldwide, any site that attracts so many visitors, Humayun's Tomb now gets 2.5 million visitors pre-COVID at least, and the idea is, unfortunately, all of these sites have over the years got segregated: Nizamuddin, Sunder Nursery, Humayun's Tomb, Purana Killa. The idea is to inform visitors of the cultural heritage of 700 years. So have a more enhanced visitor experience, but also at the same time have cafes, restaurants, restrooms, and other facilities that visitors need to these great sites.
Wow, absolutely. Extremely interesting venture that you have out there. We have unfortunately run out of time, and I'm not going to hold you back. I have with me my good friend, Gurpreet Bindra. He is the president of the Vasant Vihar Welfare Association.
And well known to me thanks to my deep connections with Vasant Vihar.
Yeah. So, Gurpreet, over to you.
Actually, I'm very happy to present this memento to Ratish, even though it's virtual. Ratish is a son-in-law of our family. I've seen Mandara, his wife, grow up right before our eyes, I think, from the time she was 1 or 2. Your in-laws are great friends of ours. So I'm actually very happy. I'm sure that in due course of time, this will reach you.
That box does not look like a cake.
No, it's only a representative one. The real cake will come to you in a much bigger box. Don't get fooled by the size of the box. It's only representative.
Thank you very much.
We are keeping the box, and Mr. Bindra is going to send you the cake box.
We actually believe in Vasant Vihar that appearances should be deceptive.